What's up, everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So in the Florida prison system, they have what's called a T.O.H, and that means test of heart. When you get to JIT camp, you are going to get T.O.H'd, but it can happen anywhere. It goes down in adult camp and even in jail. I've had a couple people contact me because they have kids that are doing things that would cause them to go to prison. So if you're watching this and you got a kid that thinks he's a badass, go ahead and grab them so they can hear this. JIT camps are not a place you want to go. It's a totally different world in there where violence rules and no one cares about your feelings. It creates a savage mindset that you either adapt to or every day you're going to live a rough life. Now, you either can become the predator or you can become the prey. Anyone watching this, their first answer may be, well, I would become the predator. But would you? It's so easy to say that until you are subjected to a level of violence that you didn't even know existed. Until 5 men enter your cell with bangers and broomsticks telling you to break it off, you really can't answer that question. You can be one badass motherfucker, but not bad enough to take on 5 guys with weapons. And this is where your heart gets tested. The T.O.H and the brutality involved is a vicious initiation that welcomes new inmates into the violent den of the state's youthful offender prisons. In these tests, young men have been horribly injured and permanently disfigured. The new inmate that goes through the beatings and sometimes rape may not have to break it off at the commissary for protection from future beatings and rape. But the inmate that can't handle the beatings are targeted for more attacks. This shit happens every day, 365 days a year. You either become the one getting tested or you become the one handing out the tests. But you won't know until you get put in that situation. It's so common that guards and inmates both know it by the same name, the test of heart. These brutal initiations happen at all 4 JIT camps in the state, or at adult camps where they have JIT dorms, where they have older inmates that are also being housed. JIT camps are where the young people are placed and the test of heart runs wild. But make no mistake about it, these facilities are not juvenile detention centers which care for the state's delinquent, at-risk youth. These are instead prisons overseen by the Florida Department of Corrections. Now, I wanted to point that out because when you enter the Florida Department of Corrections, you're entering into a world where violence rules and corruption holds it all together. There has been an ongoing fight to stop it. The Southern Poverty Law Center filed suit against a prison guard at the Sumter Correctional Institute who had allegedly witnessed but did nothing to stop a test of heart. The suit was filed in behalf of R.W. against Correctional Officer Bruce Kisser. The victim's name is being withheld as a rape victim. R.W.'s test came a few weeks after he was admitted to Sumter CI. The then 17-year-old had been brought there after he violated his probation. He was soon told that he must pay for his safety by using his own money to buy items from the prison commissary to distribute to other inmates. If not, he would be forced to fight a test of heart. But R.W. had no money to pay for the price for his safety. His punishments came in a savage half-hour encounter with several other young inmates. A jagged piece of metal fencing was used to stab him multiple times. One young man finally grabbed a broomstick and raped him with it as the other young man was passed out on the floor. This all happened while Correctional Officer Bruce Kisser watched and did nothing to intervene. If you're listening to this and you think this couldn't happen to you, you got your life fucked up. It could happen to anyone. It doesn't matter if you're in a gang or you can fight like Mayweather. You could be banging blood and end up at a camp where there's no bloods, and that's because the other gang went to war with them and just got them off the compound. And now here you come, alone and up against multiple gangs that are ready to make you their June June. Or you may not even be in a gang. But either way, it doesn't matter because eventually you're going to get your heart tested. You could also end up at Lancaster Correctional Institution. After Bavard closed down, it became the worst for inmate-on-inmate violence. It often occurs in the many hidden corners of the prison, like the laundry area or even under the tree in the rec yard. In fact, Lancaster was the setting the same year for a test of heart. It was May 7th, and Lewisis, who was 19 and a new inmate, was slammed in the back of his head with a bar of soap that another inmate had stuffed inside a sock. Now, 6 inmates then pinned him down. One grabbed him by his throat as the others dragged him across the carpeted floor by his ankles. The young prisoners between the ages of 18 and 20 kept demanding that he pay them money to stop the beating, but Lewisis refused. He tried to wrestle his way out of getting beat by the inmates, who locked him in a chokehold and began to kick and beat him with more socks stuffed with soap. The one inmate grabbed him by his throat and said, "I got something for you." Robert A. Walker, a 20-year-old convicted rapist, yelled at another inmate, "Get the broom!" What happened next was crueler and more unforgiving than the crime that sent him to prison. But unlike R.W., the 19-year-old's rectum was ruptured. He underwent an emergency surgery and has since racked up thousands of dollars in medical treatment. Just a year after R.W. was attacked, another young man was apparently attacked, and his name is Yalix Tirado. He was beaten by a group of inmates with a broom handle as a battering weapon. Several of Tirado's ribs were broken, and he was placed in solitary confinement. That's where Tirado died just 2 days later, only 6 days after he turned 20. Rest in peace to the young man. He does not deserve to die like that. Nobody does. But where were the guards? Because if you think you're going to prison and you're going to get in a fight or be getting jumped and the guards are going to come save you, you got life fucked up. Inmates aren't the only predators in the system. JIT camp prisons guards have been arrested on charges of battering inmates, and others have forced the young men to engage in rigorous exercise in the heat without even giving them adequate water. In JIT camps, it's otherwise known as PTing, where the JITs will march to and from the chow hall, sounding off cadences, which sound more like a military hip-hop declaration. The way these guards treat these young men is not much different than what they do at adult prisons in Florida. Now, with the exception of very few, the staff in the Florida Department of Corrections are absolutely morally corrupt. They use a wide variety of physical abuse and mental torture for their disciplinary tactics. All the while they watch inmates suffer with a sick, sadistic grin. The sight of that toothless grin is enough to make your skin crawl. Perhaps the worst part is that the officers come together and share in the misery of the inmates with some sick, twisted camaraderie. It's almost as if it's a brotherhood, where they think they are gods and the inmates are nothing but peasants. But make no mistake, they take extreme pleasure in dishing out cruel punishment. Man, just talking about this topic brings back a lot of memories. When I was at Gulf CI, I was in confinement in December, and then every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they cuff you up to bring you to the showers. Now, you have to be in your boxers, and it's freezing. So when I finally got to the shower and under the hot water, that's when the officer went over to the water heater and cut the hot water off, and then they all just stood there laughing at me. That's one example I went through, but I have a bunch of others, and I'm going to talk about those in my upcoming episodes. As far as the JIT camp go, this episode was graphic, but it's reality. My question to you is, what do you think these kids are going to be like when they get out? The state of Florida is breeding little warriors by continuing to promote violence and letting the test of heart be the standard for the new inmate. The officers are known to be gang members themselves, and they let certain gangs run the compound. If the officers don't give a shit, then why would the inmate entering the Florida Department of Corrections? If you're young and you're watching this, it's time to change your life. This isn't a place you want to end up. If I can share this story and it saves just one kid from going to prison, I know I'll sleep better at night. And with that, it's DOC TV. I'm out.